storybook life of a remarkable man. Nancy, what did I say? Seriously. Really. Come on, Mike. You're Tony's son. Get your woman under control. Again, thank you so much for everybody that has joined in this room today as we shine an extremely bright light on the honorable storybook life of a remarkable man. Anthony Martin Lima was born on August 24th, 1930 in Bristol, Rhode Island. He had a sister Mary and a brother Rick, 20 years his junior. Of the harsh winters he would later endure fighting abroad and through 88 years here in New England, very few were as harsh as the stormy childhood he weathered at home as a young man. The fact that such a loving, caring, compassionate man was raised in an environment where those traits were so scarce, well, that is the first miracle of many in the tale of Tony. He found joy walking the train tracks with his friends to play baseball against teams from nearby towns. I imagine Tony always wanting to play extra innings and yearning to head the opposite direction on the tracks when his friends decided to call it a day. I like to think that part of Tony's permanent smile took shape the day he finally punched his ticket out and forged his own set of tracks towards the sheer joy of a different, unknown future. Chapter 2 in the tale of Tony is also the beginning. With an eager pencil in hand, he approached his table of destiny, ready to enlist in the branch of military that would become part of his lifelong identity. "Hello, young man, how can I help you today?" said a sharply dressed soldier. "I'm ready to serve. Where do I sign up and when the hell can we leave?" said Tony. The man looked Tony in the eye and uttered 10 words he would never, ever forget. "Sorry, no more room in the Navy. Try the Marines." But think about what Tony was leaving behind and walking towards as he approached that table with Semper Fi embroidered on it. I wonder if Tony's excitement allowed him to remember or even recognize the significance of that signature. In a way, he signed his own birth certificate because Tony Lima's life started when he joined the Marines. Tony had his first good meal in boot camp on Parris Island, South Carolina, where he learned a hard lesson that creamed corn was not a dessert. But he dove in and he loved it because it was new and it was different. He would wield that same audacity as he boarded planes around the world on various missions during his time with the Marines. 2 notes about Tony's return from the notoriously tough Parris Island. The first, when he came home, his father asked him how boot camp was. He said, "After living with you, it was a piece of cake." The second, on his brief homestay, Tony visited a former teacher who years ago pulled him out of line on school picture day to comb his hair and clean him up a bit. Well, he put on his dress blues and showed up to that teacher's house to show her how he had made something of himself. He was a Marine and he was proud of it. Now, this hall that we're gathered in here today resembles nothing of a classroom, but we need to quickly break rank for an important history lesson. You won't be tested, but if you know Tony, you should know this. How's everybody doing, all right?
How are you doing?
Best I've ever been. In November of 1950, a cold front from Siberia descended over the Chosin Reservoir in North Korea. It was the coldest winter in 100 years, with temperatures plunging to a breath-stealing 36 below. It was here that around 25,000 fighters, mostly Marines, were surrounded by 120,000 Chinese and North Korean soldiers with one mission: to completely annihilate all UN forces. One of those Marines was a Portuguese kid from Rhode Island named Anthony Lima. Outnumbered, frozen, low on ammunition and food, their only lifeline was to fight their way out of a deadly trap and march 78 miles in brutal temperatures through waves and waves of enemy soldiers. Against seemingly impossible odds, young Tony and his fellow soldiers redefined tenacity, courage, and determination as they managed to inflict crippling losses against the enemy forces. The fierce fight to escape, the dead and the dying, the unforgiving cold, the frostbite and the sheer exhaustion that marked that time in history. The fighting lasted 17 days. By battle's end, the fighting was hand to hand. Men were using their teeth, rifle butts, and anything else they could get their hands on to fight and to survive. All told, of the 25,000 Allied soldiers involved in the Chosen Campaign, around 15,000 perished at the reservoir, and during that subsequent advance, 2,500 were killed in action, and there were about 7,500 cases of frostbite, casualties of frostbite. The remaining survivors would forever be known as the Chosen Few. To this day, the tale of this battle is shared with bright young faces in the early days of Marine Corps boot camp to set the tone and the bar which Tony and his fellow soldiers raised to define the depth of spirit, the breadth of courage, the fire of passion, and the amount of inner strength and resolve that we are capable of possessing in our darkest, coldest hours. Tony survived that winter, and that was his second miracle. He was one of the chosen few. He wore a hat with those words like a badge of honor until his last day. It was an immense source of pride. Without question, the experience provided him with a reservoir of love and appreciation as he cherished each day that the sun would rise upon him. And although being a member of the honored chosen few was a huge part of Tony, it paled in comparison to his chosen one. His heart, his wife, his life, and his third miracle, Marilyn Amaralt. I know it, you know it, Tony knew it, everybody knew it. The best thing that ever happened to Tony was meeting Mal. It was May 3rd, 1952. Mal and Tony were set up on a blind date by some mutual friends to go dancing. Tony pulled up to her curb in his 1946 Oldsmobile, but he stayed in the car. As Mal peered outside at her destiny, of course, she hesitated. See, being the tall dame that she was, she had a thing about shorter guys, and he looked a little bit short sitting in the car. So as Tony leaned out of the window towards his hesitant miracle and said, "So, are you gonna get in or aren't you?" Good call, Mal, good call. After the dance, Tony's car wouldn't start, and they had to get out and push it. He felt so bad that he asked her to go out on a second date. 2 months later, they were engaged. How's that for a love story? Like peas and carrots, peanut butter and jelly, Nana A and bingo, Mal and Tony were a perfect pair. Tony didn't even have to ask the coveted question. What he said was, "There's a jeweler that comes down to the base, want to pick out a ring?" Of course he knew the answer. But he actually pocketed the ring for a few weeks, and it surfaced from his jacket pocket aboard a small rowboat in the middle of a pond. Mission accomplished.
Mike, did you know they met in this building?
Get out of town.
There you go.
News update, everybody. Mal and Tony actually met. Thank you. We'll be giving you more updates as they roll in. Great. Thank you, Aunt Jerry. Mal rushed home and woke up Nana A to tell her the news. Nana adored Tony, and he loved her just as much. Where is this one? Aunt Judy. Where's Aunt Judy?
Right in front of you.
Oh, Aunt Judy was probably even more thrilled. She thought Tony was so cute. She even asked him if he had a younger brother. And she'd call her friends when he came over to say, "He's here, he's here." They'd sit and look at him, mesmerized by his charm and million-dollar smile that we all know so well, one he wore every time you were lucky enough to be in his company. On April 18th, 1953, they were married in St. Jerome's Church in North Weymouth. Mal thought the bakery in South Boston made a mistake when she went to pick up the cake. It was the biggest one she had ever seen. With her sister Joan driving, the cake gripped tight on her lap, and no seatbelts or free hands.
I was in the back seat.
A poor Mal looked on helplessly with a frosting-dipped nose as a young Mary Higgins bounced around the back seat like a rag doll. Take a sip of water, give you that visual for a second. Good times. The wedding was a blast. Tony paid the band with money from envelopes he was receiving from guests, and he took the rest of the envelopes on their honeymoon to New York City, With no plans, no reservations, and not a care in the world, as Mal said, we had a ball. They returned home to start a life and moved into an apartment that you couldn't turn around in. This opened the door to a flurry of miracles, 4 of them to be exact. Now, we've all felt that glow when you said hello to Tony, and he flashed you the kind of smile that made you believe that you put it there. I can't imagine what it must have felt like to call him Dad. One of Mal's proudest shares with me was that the kids were content and happy. We didn't have much, but we never went hungry. We did the best we could with what we had. So let's talk about these lucky ducks for a second. Tony's name for his son Harry was Pal. Maybe those Portuguese for buddy? But he inherited Tony's athleticism and his love of music. And then there's the twins. Mal quoted God directly as having said, "I did such a good job with this one, I think I'll make another one just like it." But Judy's nickname was Peanut, and she got his high cholesterol and his warped sense of humor. Judy felt today was the perfect opportunity to finally reveal a long-protected family secret between father and daughter. Tony let her drive the car before she was old enough up in Braintree in the parking lot where the plaza is right now. Surprise! No, sorry. Apologize later, Jude. Jackie got his creativity and felt gypped by simply being called Jack. But in public, Tony always introduced her as Jacqueline the nurse. She told her mother once that it was embarrassing, to which Mal replied, "It's because he's so proud of you." One look at his second son Michael smile and you'll see exactly what he got from Tony. His charming good looks. Sorry about that, buddy. Mike's nickname was Pumpkin, and he'd ditch his friends to follow his dad on any errand, any day, especially if there was food involved.
Amen to that.
I spoke with Tony's kids this week. 4 children with different personalities shared some very similar thoughts. Tony was a hard worker. They each felt absolutely cherished by him. He loved spending time with them. He loved their mother more than anything, and he was an incredible father. Tony undoubtedly drew from his will to survive in the Corps when it came to supporting his family, whatever it took and by any means necessary. He consistently worked 2nd and 3rd jobs to support them so Mal could stay home and raise the kids. Buddy told me he would set his alarm early just so he could see his dad off to work because he would be sleeping by the time that Tony got home. Tony never collected unemployment. If layoffs were rolled out, he'd hustle and find another one right away. His support knew no boundaries or judgment. Tony always told his kids he didn't care about their grades as long as you got an A in effort. But grades are important too, girls. Each year, one of his 2 weeks of vacation was spent working on the house. While Tony would fix odds and ends, bang nails, and do yard work, the Lima kids would follow their father around in awe and wonder, taking turns handing him a favorite family snack, which they all dubbed Curly Q potato chips. There you go. And the 2nd week of vacation was always dedicated to his kids. He'd take them to amusement parks, picnics, and on day trips around the area to some of their favorite spots, like Lincoln Woods State Park in Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. This is another important part. I'm going to take it ready. Okay. During these years, Tony also stumbled across what I am positive that he would call a miracle, when he picked up 2 more brothers. You see, growing up, Tony was a family staple in what I would refer to as the 3 kings. One of his new brothers was my grandfather, Bill Higgins. These 2 men undoubtedly bonded over their respective military service and exposure to wartime atrocities at such a young age. Tony, the Battle of Chosin, and Bill on the beaches of Normandy. When Tony and Bill sat next to each other, their intense experiences at war and appreciation for the delicacy of life created a palpable sense of camaraderie and respect. The third king that sat in the row of thrones at many family functions is still holding court today, an equal king and brother on all fronts, Mr. Dick D'Aramio. Even though Uncle Dick was never tasked with taking a life, I think he got a hall pass from the other two soldiers for a sheer restraint from doing so while raising his 3 sons, Mike, John, and But yeah, they were the closest of friends, and they set the bar high for all of us on how to treat people, how to support family and friends, and how to cherish the small things in life. I can't name 3 heartier laughs and bigger smiles in the family. They were alive, happy, and all somehow managed to marry an Emerald. They had it made in the shade. Okay. Dear Mal, how you doing, love?
I'm doing okay.
I love you.
I love you too.
I know you do. You don't have a choice, but.
Okay.
So Mal, I've known you for almost 40 years. We've become remarkably close since my lady, your sister Joan, passed away. You've graciously accepted an extra helping of maternal doting from us Kearney kids. From impromptu chats in your living room to entertaining flowers and a poem on Valentine's Day, you make time and clear space to receive those tokens of love in her absence. Not because you're a stand-in, but because you are a part of her and she of you. That love does not expire. It just gets spread around and it gets shared. That's what we do. We pick each other up, we help when people need it, and we hug tighter when we lose a member of this incredibly tight-knit, loving family. From Nana A, Harry, Joan and Bill Higgins, Joe Mortland, Margaret, and now Tony, and other loved ones no longer physically present, they're still a part of us and they're with us every single day. Cherish the time and memories we've had with Tony, celebrate his life, and see him every single day through your children, Buddy, Michael, Jackie, and Judy. Through your grandchildren, Allison, Michael, Brian, Matthew, and Mark. Through your great-granddaughter, Sydney, and through every single person in this room. They say no one ever truly dies until people stop speaking about them, until their memory is no longer carried. The young men that protect this country will never, ever stop speaking about the bravery that Tony and his fellow soldiers displayed at the Battle of Chosin. Take comfort in the fact that Tony's memory and his legacy of love, of friendship, and character will forever thrive in the branches of family and friends gathered here today. Mal and Tony were joined at the hip and the heart for 67 years. Let's talk about it. When they went to weddings, Tony always told her that she looked the best out of every dame in the room. Tony was staring at his bureau not too long ago. Mal asked, what was wrong? He said he couldn't see. She turned him towards her and said, can you see me? He said, yes, and you're beautiful. Even recently when his memory was all but departed, he would perk up at the sound of her name and exclaim, I love her. Tony always told Mal that he loved her, and she him, often in the form of their song. I love you, a bushel and a peck, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck, a hug around the neck, and a barrel and a heat. I'll let her sing it.
About you, a bushel and a peck. You brush pretty neck, I do.
That's right.
Doodle-oo-doo-doo, doodle-oo-doo-doo, doodle-oo-doo-doo. And I sang that to him the night before he died, and Judy was there, and he had tubes, and his head was going back and forth. Time to the music.
Once in a while, believe it or not, Mal is able to summarize long, amazing stories with very few words. But this typically happens after she's told you that long story in great detail. one of her classic lines before she says goodbye. You know, honest to goodness, we had the best kids, and we have the best family. And let me tell you something, we started with a little and ended up with a whole lot. What Tony started with and what he ended with, well, that truly is a miracle. I think the best way for us to celebrate Tony's life today is to be here, with friends and family, catching up with one another, telling stories of our favorite Marine, and making a solemn promise to keep his memory alive forever. Mal asks that each of you, in your own way, send your prayers and thoughts to Tony, and may his soul rest in peace. Amen. To help us honor Uncle Tony and his service to family and country, I'd like to direct our attention to the back hall.